everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way. And this week we're about a week away from Halloween, so I thought it would be really fun to do a spooky little watercolor painting to celebrate that holiday. So this is a really fun one. It actually only takes 4 markers and about 5 stamps. So really super easy to do and fun. Okay, so let's get going. We're gonna need a few things. So in our new Cottage set, we're gonna use this one right here, this little house. In the branches set, we're gonna use this one right here, the middle one. We're gonna go back to the old barn set, the little mini set, and we're gonna use this little barbed wire fence. And then way back in Project Series 3, we're gonna use the little set of pumpkins. And then in the foliage set, we're going to use the tiny grass. So we're coming back to the foliage set again. So we are going to start out by inking that little cottage, and we're going to ink it in 2 colors. So we're going to use the African violet. So we want that spooky, shadowy color. So kind of an old white. And so we're going to use 2 colors. And we're going to ink it with the African violet, and then we're going to go back over it again with the sepia. So 2 colors, and I'm going to take a little bit of this off the bottom because I want to add some grass growing in there, so I don't want to see all those lines. So I'm going to stamp it a little bit higher, so right about here in the center of my watercolor paper. So that looks pretty good right there. That's exactly where I want it. So now I'm going to start out by taking the color out of the lines. Remember, this is always our starting point. So we don't have to be intimidated by a white sheet of watercolor paper because we always have a starting point, and that's to stamp the basic image and then pull the color out of the lines. So dip your brush in water, pinch it off, and then just start by dragging the color out. And I always start where it's the darkest. So under these eaves, we're going to drag this color out, and under these little windows, inside this door, you can see there's quite a mix of color because we've inked that with 2 separate colors. So we're going to get a really nice combination of color. Drag this out over the roof. Remember where the light is coming down? We don't want to drag that color all the way to the top of the roof. It's always better not to color things in solid. I know I say that a million times, but I have to remind you guys every video. Don't color things in solid. Okay, so we're just pulling this color out. Let's add a little detail to the window now. We're going to do that with the African violet and the sepia. So these are the 2 colors we used when we inked this image, and we're just putting them on our palette now. So we're going to take a little bit of this color and mix it up and just make some little details in the window. Just simple little window panes. Don't stress out about this. These things don't have to be perfect. So the little squares don't have to be perfect little squares. That's okay. And if you want to add something a little fun, you can put a little spook in the window and just leave a little white area just like this. So kind of color this all in around, and then just take your little fine point and put 2 little eyes in here. And we've got our little ghost peeking out through the window. Super cute. And then if you want to, you can add a little more color to the roof. Remember, we don't want to go clear to the edges, and it's better that it's not too uniform anyway. Always better that way. And drag out a few little shadows here. You know, this is in the trees, so we're going to see lots of shadows. And then let's add a little more color onto the door. I'm going to set this back in here. Super easy. The sides of these chimneys, this would be really dark in here. And you can see this is really starting to take shape. It's just amazing how this first step just transforms your image. So I'm going to make this really dark in here. In fact, I think I'm going to come in with my sepia fine tip and really make this dark in here. I'm going to darken this little door handle. And if you want, you can put some detail in the door. See, just like that. And add a little more color to these windows. This is why it doesn't matter if it's perfect, because you can always come back in here and just add more detail. Okay, looks like we are about finished with our little structure. Got our little haunted house going. So now let's go on to the next step. And I'm going to add some color into the background because I want to put some bare trees in here. So I want to get this color in the background in first. And that's going to be this African violet and a little bit of this sepia color. So I think I'll add a little bit more to my palette and just kind of mix that in. So it's almost like a grayish purple. So kind of a spooky background color. And I'm just going to brush this in. This is a night sky, so it's going to be fairly dark. Stay away from those lines on your little structure because we don't want that to bleed into the picture. So just keep brushing this in. So fun. We're going to stamp those bare trees over the top, so it's just a good idea to get this in first. Okay, and as soon as that's dry, we'll get our trees in. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and ink our tree up. So this is from the branch set, and we're going to ink this one in 2 colors as well. So we're going to ink it in the African violet, so same as the little structure. And then we're going to go over the top of it with the sepia. So 2 colors on this one as well. And we're just going to stamp it in here just maybe once, and then maybe one more time in here, just like that. And we're going to do that again. Same 2 colors again. So far we've only used 2 colors on this little painting. Just sepia and African violet. So they can be really simple. So let's do this one over here, and maybe another tap like that. And so we've got our little, excuse me, spooky trees in here. So we're ready to go on to the next step. And that would be to add our little pumpkins in. So I'm going to use my positioner because I want to make sure that I get this in the right place. And I've got them on my little block. So I'm going to ink these in the sepia. Ink them all up here like this. And then just stamp that right into the corner of my, into my little positioner. And I'm going to tuck it kind of right underneath here of the window. So this little stem here on the pumpkins is going to be right underneath that window. That's going to be just about perfect right there. So I'm just going to ink it again. And then now stamp it back into the corner. There we go. That looks good. So let's go ahead and do the next step, and that would be to pull the color out of the lines. So make sure your brush isn't too wet. And then just drag this color out of the lines. Remember not to cross those lines. Even on these little images, you don't want to cross those lines. Make sure that you're staying in that section. And all these little sections of these pumpkins, they're rounded. So we're going to need to see a highlight on each one of these. It's really, really important because coloring these all in solid is going to make them flat, and we don't want that. So I want to make sure we see a highlight on all these little areas. So now that we've pulled that color out, we're going to add some color to it. And we're going to do that from the palette. So I'm using a number 88 terracotta. And just putting some of this color on my palette. So I'm going to clean my brush off and really pinch it off so I don't get too much color, too much water. And I'm going to start on the outside and just drag this color on. Remember to leave that highlight so the light is coming down, and you want to stay in your sections in between these lines and make sure that you can see a highlight in these sections. Really, really important. And take your time brushing this color on because every time you make a pass, that color is going to get darker and more vibrant. So just take your time and brush it in. And you can just keep going until you've got it as dark as you want it to be. I think I'll make one more pass here. And especially underneath. Underneath these pumpkins, it's going to be really dark under here. So you can see we just brushed this color in. Got this on, it looks pretty good. And I'm going to use the fine tip now of my little sepia and put some of these details back in. It's okay to do that. I do this a lot. And if you want to add any more detail to your little pumpkins, you can. You can leave them like this, or if you want to, put some little faces on here. And drawing faces on pumpkins, so easy. It's just a matter of 3 little triangles first. So 1, 2, and another one down here. And then just a little mouth. However you want to do that. Let's make this one a little happy one. And just darken that really dark. So got our little faces on there. So we're ready to go on to the next step. So I've cut a mask. So I'm going to cover up these little pumpkins because I want to put my little fence in. So I'm going to cover those up so that I can stamp over the top. And I've got my little barbed wire fence. So I only need a couple of these little panels. So I'm going to use this little section right here in the center. And I'm going to use my positioner again because I really want to make sure I get it in the right place. So I'm only going to ink these 2, and I'm going to ink them with my sepia. So just this panel. You can take a little more of the fence if you want to. That's okay. So I'm going to position my little fence in here, right over the top of those little pumpkins. And re-ink it again. So remember just that one little section. And I'm going to use the sepia again. And just stamp it right in here. Just like that. And then I'm going to put another little section over here. So I'm just going to clean this stamp off. And I'm going to use this larger section now. So this little one right here, and use my positioner again. So I'm going to ink this one. And just stamp it into the corner again, just like I did before. And place this one right about here. That looks pretty good, right about there. So many times you use these stamps in sections more than you do as a whole. I know I do. That's the best thing about a stamp is that you can use bits and pieces of them, so they're so versatile. Okay, so we've got that little fence in there. So let's add just a little bit of water to it. We don't need to add a lot. And just kind of pull this color out of the posts right here. Just a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead now with the next step, and we're going to take that little tiny grass, just a little tiny grass stamp, and we're going to ink that with the sepia. And just add a little bit of this grass in the background. So a little bit by the house here, some underneath these posts, so they don't look like they're kind of floating in the air. We can add some here by the pumpkins. Remember, you're stamping this in here a bunch of times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just get that all in here. And then just add some water to it. Pull that color up and out. This little grass is just in everything. So just keep pulling that color up. You can add as much of this as you want to. Okay, you really don't have to add any water to the trees. If you want to, just add some water to the very base of the trees where the widest area is. And you can actually put just a few little lines in here where a shadow would be. Kind of fun. Add a little little darker color just inside here where the doorway is. And I did that just from my palette. Just like that. Okay, so we're almost finished with this. We're going to do one more little detail, and I'm going to take my gray marker. So this is a number 12 gray, but you can use any gray that you want to. And we're going to draw some little cobwebs in here. And this is so easy to do. I wanted to include this in this lesson because I don't want you to be afraid to do things like this. Drawing things freehand is really fun, and actually it's kind of a confidence builder. So we're going to start out with one line. So we're going to draw a cobweb onto this post, and we're going to draw a line like this. So straight out like that, and think about where it's connected. So this little web is going to come out just like that, and we're going to add some lines in here like this. So you can see this web is kind of coming out like that. Let's do another one here. So straight out like this, and then just put these little lines in just like this, just like that. Let's do one over here. Just like that. You can put as many of these in as you want. So fun to do. And it actually makes it a little more spooky. That looks pretty good. You can come back in here and add any more details that you want to by using your little fine tip. This is the sepia pen. That looks good. So one thing left to do, and that is to sign a date and put this on a card or give it away, and you will make somebody's Halloween fun. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you all next week.